And now I want to talk about that because let's talk about that. The other magazines talk about you because you're the competition. You've figured it out. You bring your A game. You know what you're doing. You follow trends. You use social media. You're crushing it on almost every single field. How, I wonder, do they feel when they are beaten by the technology that they want to use as well?
We should phone them and ask.
Yeah.
We can do that because it's technology.
Here.
We'll Skype them and we can have a four-way conversation. I've never spoken to them about it. I've only heard rumours. They're getting on board now with the technology, but I don't know if they're. I personally don't think they're doing it the right way. And I think they got stuck into the whole Apple thing when it came out and thought this is what our readers want. And now they've actually, I believe, if I'm not wrong, they've pulled out of Apple. They've stopped doing it. So I don't know what they're using now. But I don't look. I really don't. I don't look at things as competition. I just never have. I'm just doing what I'm doing. And we all. I think there's enough room for everybody.
Oh, sure. But there's still always going to be competition of what you do.
Yeah,
right?
and I mean, no one's started a magazine yet. And if they do that, I don't care.
That you just improve what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the magazine itself is established now, so it'll be pretty hard for somebody to get in on the bandwagon. And if they do, great. I'll learn from what they're doing.
Yes.
But the thing is the reason I have 6. We counted 5. I've got to think of the sixth way we...
that's going to bug you now. 2 o'clock in the morning.
I have to go on my website and I'll tell you what the other one is. The reason I have 6 is because the technology, I keep discovering new ways of giving the magazine out. And I figure that even if I have 10 ways people can read the magazine is great. Because some people like Revisit, some people like PressPad, some people like Magster. Once you download either PressPad or Magster, you want to stick with that.
Sure.
And that's how you want to get your magazines. Mm-hmm. I've sort of switched over on the website to Magster because I like it better as an editor. But and the other thing is with the magazine, it pings once you get Magster. Now Magster and PressPad are free to download, and then Vanish is free every month. But it pings you on your phone, so it says, the latest copy of Vanish is here. So they just go download, and it's wonderful technology. But so keeping up. That's why I have 5 so far. There is another one. That's why we have these. That's why I keep adding, because the technology changes. So I have to keep up as an editor to keep the magazine going. And at the forefront, I have to keep finding out all the new ways of people can read magazines.
Distribution.
Yeah, and at the moment, I think that's where it's at. It's pretty come to a plateau because, as Magster builds up its millions of readers now. Well, that's the other thing. That's a great thing about Magster and these other companies like PressPad is because they have millions of readers. And so only one of those readers has to type in, I wonder if there's a magic magazine. Boom, there I am, Vanish Magic Magazine. Wow, I didn't know that existed. And that could be a person that just said to themselves one day, I wonder if there's a magic magazine.
Yeah.
Got to watch magic on television. I thought, I'd never known. I wonder if and they type into, and bang, and now I've got them hooked, hopefully. And then the advertisers get all excited, the numbers go up. You can't do that with a real magazine in the shop. I believe we are a real magazine. I should stop saying that. You can't do that with a printed magazine because, for a start, they're not in shops. They're not in the regular shop. They're in sort of speciality shops, magic shops and things, because they're trade magazines. But so there's a whole lot of advantages.
I used to distribute magazines, a printed magazine, and I would go to a place and I would put 100 magazines on a location. Yeah. And I would come back the next month and they were all gone. And I said, this printed magazine is doing well. And the guy behind the counter said, well, we take 3 or 4 off the top and we throw the rest in the trash.
Really?
No kid. I said, so I'm wondering how many other people are doing this. So I checked. A lot.
Wow.
If you're in a printed magazine, because you drop them off, and they behind the counter they're not thinking of they're just thinking of a couple for themselves,
right?
And then boom, it ends up in the trash. You have no way. You can't measure that.
No, right.
Those statistics are out. You have no way of knowing if your magazine is reaching. But with a digital magazine, you know exactly how many they're reaching. Exactly, right? Because of the analytics.
You reminded me of a funny story. Funny story.
Tell it.
I told you I wrote this book called Paw Mystery. It's about reading cats' paws.
Right.
And it was published in New Zealand by Penguin and published in Canada by Penguin.
And it turned out to be a blockbuster book.
It was one. I think that year it was the highest non-fiction book out of New Zealand. It got serialised in the Daily Mirror to 8 million people in the UK.
No.
Anyway, but what was interesting was I was talking to a very good friend of mine who's one of the world's... he's a very well-known author. And I won't mention names because of the story, but it's a lovely story. He said he does book signings all around the world, and he travels the world all the time with his books and things. And he says, whenever I go into a bookshop, he says, I go to see if my books are there. And if they're there, he makes little marks in them, or he scuffs them, or he signs his name or something. Because what happens is that the shops can't send the books back; they have to buy them if they're scuffed or they've been on the shelves.
Ah.
And I thought, so I started going around to bookshops and just signing my name in the book, because then they can't be sent back. Because often they're sent back if they're not sold.
Oh,
I love that little.
brilliant.
Funny.
That is brilliant.
I wonder, when you said your magazine thing, I thought, well, maybe someone's going in and just putting the magazines and
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if it's the same thing.
Yeah, interesting.
But I don't know. Getting back to the question about what the others think of me, I don't really think of it very often. Actually, I don't let that bother me. The competition.
Well, they're watching you to see what you do.
Well, they
'cause
are
you're
watching me. Yeah,
you're
sure,
the
yeah.
forerunner.
Yeah.
You are the leader in that industry.
Well, I know they're watching me. I know. I mean, I hear things, and they've actually had meetings together and all sorts of things. They try and I mean, if they phoned me and asked me what I would do in their case, I would help them. I don't care.
See, that's the thing, right? Professional help is always easy to get, I've found, right? You just have to ask.
Yeah.
But they're so scared sometimes to say, I'm in the same business as you, and you probably aren't going to answer my question.
I
Well,
know,
you will.
I know. One of the stories I heard, which was interesting, was somebody in particular had said, "Oh, that my magazine Vanish would never take off. How can you have a free publication? It's not valued at all. If it's free, people don't value it."
Newspapers are free.
Well, I read the Vancouver Sun. I read the New Zealand Herald. I don't pay for those.
Yeah.
I can read the articles I want. If you want certain things, then you pay for those extra things. But look. So my friend said to this guy, he said, "Well, look at Facebook."
That's free.
And
completely
the guy
free.
couldn't
Look at Gmail.
Couldn't respond
Yeah.
because they're all free. And look at those, So
And they're
and it's changing. People are expecting things to be free now.
Yep.
You can get anything off the internet for free.
Yes.
If I want to cook something, I go online and YouTube it, and there it is.
Yes.
Or do any home improvements, anything. It's all online and it's free. So the question is, how do you take that and as a person that puts it up online for free and make money from it?
Yeah.
And that's how that's the hardest question. How do you do that? And there are ways that you can do it. If it's YouTube, people try to make their living. Well, some people do make their living just by doing YouTube videos. That's become a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's every million hit, you get paid and so on. So people just have a camera and try and come up with these crazy things, and you only got to take one to take off, and that's it.
That's right. One makes it viral.
Yeah. So it's like a magazine. You get it into a country, and somehow it takes off. I mean, if you get into China, or they have a problem with their internet over there, but in Asia somewhere, the numbers are different than they are here.
Way up.
Oh yeah, yeah.
See, these are markets that we need to be, as entrepreneurs, we need to be looking at.
Absolutely.
Because they're...
And I find a lot of people don't think that. They only think in there, and this is what I found with the other magazines. This was the big thing with the magazine was, when I started it, there was, at the end of the day, all my magazine is a magazine that I want to read. That's my basic thing.
That's perfect.
I've been in the business so long, but it's a magazine that I want to read. And so the articles are all articles I want to read. That's my thing. And at the end of the day, that's all it is. And hopefully others want to read it too. So that's always been my goal with the magazine. And you have to... I've lost my train of thought for a second, sorry.
It's all right.
What we were saying, just went... I was thinking about something else. When I mentioned food, I was thinking about dinner.
Hungry?
Dinner. No. So anyway, with the magazine, that's always been my goal, is to have something that I wanted to read, and hopefully others would too. But it's just grown off and grown up and just taken off, viral. But it's finding the way to make money. That's
that's the ticket.
That's the ticket, and it's as you say, entrepreneurs. That's what we try to do. One is YouTube,
Twitter.
I'm not. Here's what I use, and I find it better because I don't have time to go onto Twitter, Facebook, and all those other things. LinkedIn. I belong to them all, but you can't go on and read them all. Otherwise, a friend of mine wrote a book. He's an entertainer, and he said, and he's right. Social media is a full-time job. Like if you use social media to promote yourself, it can be a full-time job.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So some people
No
actually have
question.
people they hire to do this, right?
Sure, the offshore.
I discovered, which I think is a Vancouver company, Hootsuite.
Oh, I love Hootsuite.
So you've only got to go onto Hootsuite and put in your whatever you want to put in to promote whatever it is, or say whatever you want, and then you can time it so that it goes to LinkedIn,
Yeah.
it goes to Twitter, it goes to your Facebook
Automatically.
accounts, and then it saves you having to go through everything and do it. So I really love that. So finding time savers. has been good too.
Perfect.
And that again, you can hit every social media market, and then it's knowing how to use a social media market. You don't want to get on social media and annoy everybody with all these posts about your products or your work. You've got to be quite selective. I think, and this is what I was talking earlier about. There's no etiquette, and so you've got to find out where the etiquette is. That you've got to get to the point where you don't annoy people, but you're on just enough that they go, oh yeah, I like to read that post.
Yes. Because
if you're on all the time, they basically, and if they're long posts, you've got to learn how to write small, short, punchy posts. So you're crafting you have to be able to craft your social media skills like marketing.
You have to think like Twitter, very small.
Yeah,
Shrink
and
it down.
that's what. So gone are the days where you would write a big paragraph to promote your product and put it in a magazine or something. Those days, you got to think of things in sentences or less than 31 words or whatever it is for Twitter.
Yeah.
And that's really what it is, to grab people's attention. And then what I do is I do that, and it hooks them into the magazine, and then I can, the thing about the magazine, and this is what the advertisers love. We were talking earlier about what brings the advertisers in.
Mm-hmm.
I had an advertiser. I'm working on the next issue actually right now, and an advertiser emailed me 2 ads, and he keeps realising he's making a spelling mistake or something in his advertising. I says, no problem, I don't care. As long as you can change it every day until it comes out. And even when the magazine comes out, I've had advertisers go, oh, I can't believe I made a mistake in the ad.
You can fix it.
I said, no problem, I'll just take it off, change
Rebuild
the PDF, reboot, and bang it up.
I love that.
And,
you can add to your magazine anytime you want.
So even once it's come out, I still add to it. And the other thing is it's out there. Here's the other great thing about this. Boy, I'm giving away some top secrets.
This is valuable, more valuable than gold.
Well, here's the thing that a lot of people don't realise, and I think this is a big secret, and something I learned a while ago, is the reason I put. Oh, should I share this?
Oh well, no, I don't want that. I won't take that call. Okay.
Oh, I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh yeah. No, you teased us. Now you have to give us the goods.
Well, here's what I realised was if you do a PDF magazine, it's a PDF file.
Yeah.
Right? So Google can't scan it. They can't go through and take every single word because you're talking about search engines, which are vital.
Yeah.
So this is the reason I put it out into, and I can't remember the name of the software I use, but it puts it online. And I think that, sorry, now I know the number 6 way. I have 2 versions of a live online magazine. That's what it is. So in other words, we could go onto the website and you can click the live online magazine, which means you can read it like a book, right?
Uh-huh.
So what it does is it turns it into HTML5, I think it's called.
Really?
So what it does is it's like a website. All the words are now Googled, if you like.
So they can be indexed.
So they're indexed, yeah.
What is that company called?
Oh, I'll have to look online.
Okay, we'll go online later because that's really, really important.
And so that's the reason I put it on there, because I realised that people's names within their magazine and all certain things within the magazine
it's really important.
become, and that's the biggest secret of all, I guess, become searchable, which is what you want now as a interactive PDF magazine or a magazine that's through Magster or PressPad or Apple.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
So this was the only way you could do it, that it was searchable words.
That is brilliant. Like that makes a huge difference.
And that took me a while to realise that. And then I understood how it worked. And I was working on a cruise ship doing my show, finished the gig. It was what was the ship? Regent or something, I forget what it was, a really high-end ship. And I always have a little, I'm not a big drinker, but I have a little thing of port after the show just to relax and calm down. Port. And so I go into the area and I'm sitting down, and a older gentleman, probably in his maybe late 60s, maybe 60s, maybe late 60s, not early 70s, I don't think. Anyway, he's there with his wife. And people usually don't recognise me because I'm out of costume and stuff. But I'm sitting there and he says, oh, you weren't the guy on tonight. I said, yeah, that was me. He said, yeah, whatever, talking to me. And then he says, we start talking. He said, well, talking about, and I'm like never interested in, because I know about my life. I like to know this is the thing I like about travelling. I like to find out about other people. And so I try to turn the conversation over. And when I did, his wife kind of got bored. And so she got up and left. And then we started talking about the internet. And he said, I said, I like to design web pages and things, and this is what I do. He said, oh, wow, that's good. And then talking to him, because I'm thinking a guy that's in his early 70s or late 60s isn't going to quite be switched on with the internet. Boy, was I wrong. So I'm talking to him, and then I said, eventually I said, so what? You seem really switched on. What do you do? He said, oh, I just was one of the guys, I just sold my company. what was it? PayPal.
What?
Him and 3 other guys, I believe it was. He was the guy that...
You met one of the founders of PayPal?
Yeah, so I said to him, I said, now what, this is going back a long time now, quite a few years. I said to him, so wow, oh my God, now I'm like, holy smokes. I said, listen, I said, what's the biggest thing out now? Because I'm going to invest.
Yeah, no kidding.
And what he was working on, I have never seen it since. They were working on something that would get rid of keywords. You know, when you do a keyword,
Yep.
we were talking about this with the HTML5, you type in a word like magic or magician, and you get like 1 million, 2 million, 3 million hits.
Yes.
And you've got to search through until you find the one you want. Well, they were working on something that was so specific, they would almost pinpoint, but it would do away with keywords. And that's what he said they were working on. I have never heard about it since, so I don't know whatever
It's
happened
like a
to it.
hybrid search engine.
Yeah. So
Sophisticated.
that was I share that story with you.
How many years ago was this?
That was quite a long time, maybe 5-6 years ago now, and I've never heard of it since. I've always kept my ears open because I'm waiting for it to come out.
That guy retired a multi.
Oh, they sort of, was it 300 million or something? I forget what it was.
So how many partners?
I think it was 3 of them.
So 100 million apiece?
Yeah, I forget. It was a lot of money.
We could probably retire on 100 million
I think
apiece.
so. I keep looking at the lotto going, yeah. Now the question is, would you still do your magazine? That's what I think to myself. I
You
probably
just
would.
pay somebody to do it.
Yeah, I wouldn't care, would I?
And then dibble,
I still enjoy doing it. That's the thing. I
You'd
still enjoy
probably
doing
do
it.
it.
So I would do it.
I'd probably do this. if
Because
were-
what else would I do? I mean, sit around watching television, couldn't think of anything worse.
You
So
could buy a cruise ship.
yeah, you probably could. That's true.
Live
Buy
on
my own
it.
little ship. But being the worst sailor in the world to be like Gilligan's Island or
There you go.
crash somewhere. But so it's interesting on who you meet. You never know who you meet. And that's why I love the travelling, because I always talk to people.
So your advertisers, I don't want you to give out any numbers, but because it's a digital magazine, the revenue component for advertisers can be much lower than a printed magazine, right?
Yeah.
Because when I was with a printed magazine, he was charging $1,200 for a full page ad per month.
Oh, I'd love to charge $1,200.
Because you got to go out and you got to print
I
it,
know.
you got to distribute it, you got to pick them up.
You also have to have somebody that goes out and gets the advertisers. That's a full-time job.
Oh,
You know,
you got to sell advertisers.
They kind of come to me now, and it's interesting how that works. They can see they're starting to see the advantages now. The biggest advantage, and I think we may have mentioned this, is the reader can click on a button, and it's an interactive ad.
Yeah.
So they can either watch a video within the ad, or they can take them to the website. So it opens up another page with the website. So now you've hooked, and that's a real big plus. That's probably the biggest plus. And the fact that you can change the ad. Somebody can ring me up the night before and say, hey, can I change that ad? I don't care, change it.
Yeah.
Doesn't bother me.
But once it's printed,
Yeah.
it's out there.
Yeah, well, once it's in a printed magazine, you
Yeah,
can't change it.
it's
So
done.
people are starting to realise this now, and it'll only get better. So I forget how many advertisers we have. We have quite a few. I'm lucky that I got hooked into a company in the States who's a wholesalers, and they have been getting a lot of the advertisers for me because they have the biggest connection in the world of magic shops around
No
the world.
kidding.
So they love the magazine and they really support me. So their marketing manager said, look, this is incredible what you've done. We'd like to help you. What can we do? I said, well, the advertising is, and they said, well, look, we'll take care of it. So I still get my own advertising. People come directly to me, but I usually send them back down to
Now,
the
if you get a
States.
couple of clients like that, I mean...
Yeah, no,
my
they're really good.
goodness.
I think they have a whole regular list of people that they're bringing people in because they see the benefits of it. You know, the wholesalers see the benefits bringing their clients in who are online and magic shops around the world. So it's growing, and it'll become at the moment it's a full-time business without the pay.
Yeah.
but that's okay because you've got to put in the time, and each issue there's a new advertiser, so it just builds and builds.
Sure. In our magazine, I take all of the editorials and articles, and I narrate them.
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah.
And then so people can listen to the magazine as they drive.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, though. But you know what? I think that gives us a competitive edge again, because how many people are going to go to that much trouble? Hardly anybody.
Oh, not for a magazine.
If you got a 50-page magazine and half of it's printed, or half of it's ad and half of it's not,
Yeah.
you got 25 pages you got to narrate. That's a big commitment.
I couldn't even think. I mean, our magazine is usually 200 plus pages.
Oh, so what do you do? A 50-50 ratio for advertising and articles, or how do you?
No,
or
it's more articles than advertising at this stage. Because at the same time, I don't want people to think, oh, another ad.
Yeah.
But magicians, the way that we, we like to see all the latest gimmicks and ads. It's like techno people like ourselves. We like to go into a techno magazine and see all the latest equipment. So
Oh, sure.
we like the ads. So they love the ad, and to see the latest things, so it kind of works in your favour. But I try to displace the advertising within the magazine so that it, they're not bombarded with just adverts. And of course we have reviews, all the latest. I mean, you'd be amazed at the reviews of every latest trick that comes out on the market. It's a huge industry. I get sent probably 30 or 40 magic tricks a month.
No kidding.
I mean that's quite big.
People just will send you content for free.
For free, books, videos, tricks. Well, I had to review it, and the other thing that's important for the magazine is and it's just my philosophy, is to try and keep everything as positive as possible. So if something comes in that I don't like, I just won't put it in. I don't want to give something, and it kind of goes. Sometimes it goes against me because people like conflict and they like to read something negative. But then again, I just say to people, you know what, that's not who I am, that's not what my magazine's about. I want you to come away from the magazine feeling inspired. So when I interview people, we do interviews, I have writers for me, contributors now, on a regular basis. So it's not me doing all the work. I might phone up a friend and say, hey, can you do this interview for me? And the main criteria is not, I don't want to know about a person's life. I want to know how they got there.
Yes,
because
their journey.
Yep, and how somebody reading that magazine could be a 12-year-old kid or a 40-year-old man who's at a point in his life, or a woman, where they want to make that journey to be a full-time entertainer. And they can read that and go, okay, this is what I have to do. And they feel inspired. I don't want any...
It's a support system.
It is a support system. So all the articles are positive, the reviews are good, things that I know are good. And if something's not so good, I just won't put it in. I just don't feel I want to put it in. I'll let other magazines...
I don't blame you.
I feel other magazines... And I know people like that. They go, well, you're too kind. I'm only kind because I know that this is good.
You know, interesting, because I was talking to a broadcaster a couple months ago, and they said, in the United States, they expect you to be controversial in a magazine or any media. In Canada, they expect you to be thought-provoking. Interesting delineation.
I like thought-provoking, and the magazine is thought-provoking. We have an article
because it's more polite,
I think thought-provoking is really important because you want to try and push boundaries a little bit. You want to try and improve,
without being controversial.
Yeah, and you want to try and improve the art, and at the same time, get a certain message across, perhaps. And that's why the contributors are quite diverse in their ages and in their careers, because everyone has a different point of view, and you'll not always agree with the person that's writing the article, but it'll make you think.
Yeah.
And it always makes me think, and that makes you a better performer or a better person.
Yeah.
And when you stop doing that, I think you stop, as far as an artist is concerned, you stop being an artist, and you.
Yep. Creativity demands that you question
absolutely
a whole bunch of stuff.
I've been doing, as I said, I've been doing, what am I, 47 this year? Doing it since I was 8 years old, so at Magic, and so it's been my life, and even to this day I question, I look at what I do, and I've been doing my act now for, 25 years, and the Charlie Chaplin act, and even to this day I question, I look at it, and I say, can I do that better? And so with the magazine it's the same, it should be with anything. And that's when that goes, I think you lose the passion for it too.
Sure.
If it becomes a job and going, oh God, I've got to sit down and do another issue of the magazine.
That's
why it's only, and the other reason is it's only bi-monthly. People are trying to convince me to do it monthly. Then it'll become, if it becomes a full-time job where I'm really making good money, then I would do it monthly, for sure. If I can make it into because I've got enough material for a monthly. And it's true. I mean, it's
because if you do 200 100 pages a month.
I could cut it back. I could cut each magazine in half and still have a great magazine.
Yeah.
That's what people tell me. I say I do it bi-monthly because I want a magazine that takes 2 months for you to read. And that's what it is. But certainly, if it got to the point where it was a full-time job, it became a full-time job, I would look into that. But at the moment, I'm quite happy doing it and then still performing and travelling and, doing...
But you've got multiple streams of income. You got your performance, you got your traveling, you got your magazine.
I don't know where this came from. I think maybe it was in my early days when I did all these self-help business courses, and used to put audio cassettes in the car. And
Yep.
You come away really pumped. I used to go to all the
Anthony
meetings.
Robbins,
Zig
Ziglar.
Yeah, I read all those. Somebody said, now I'm trying to think, I can't think of the exact quote, but don't put all your eggs into one basket.
Yes.
And I've never done that. And maybe that's the performer in me as well. Always wondering where your next gig's going to be. So you want to have some sort of safety net. So you have
Sure.
these different things. People that make good money, I think, just don't do one thing. I think they have different things they do, different incomes.
Yeah. Yeah, they diversify.
Diversify, and I think that's quite important, especially for as an entrepreneur and for what we do. It's for what I do in particular. It's good to have these different things. So I do videos like yourself. I do products, all for magicians, all magic related, entertainment related, and magazine and books and things. So.
Do you ever do behind the scenes stuff? Like if a magic trick gets screwed up, like, oh my gosh, it didn't go well. Did you ever put that on video and show it?
No, because to be honest with you, I don't let that ever happen. You get to a point where it can't happen.
Ah,
It can happen, but nobody knows except you.
right.
It's like a piano player playing piano, they make a mistake. If they stop and go,
Then
and the
everyone's
whole
gonna
audience is
know.
going to go, you made a mistake.
Yeah.
I
Just
learned
carry
that as a
on.
kid playing piano because I made a lot of mistakes. But I realised if I carried on playing and and just carried on, it would generally wash over everybody. So as a performer, if you don't make a big deal of it, or you make it part of your character. Now remember, my character mostly is Charlie Chaplin, so I could make a big mistake, and it's part of the act.
Yeah.
No big deal.
Yeah.
And part of being a professional is being able to get past, if you make an error, is get past that. And I don't think you should. Maybe one or two things certainly one or two things have happened, but in the career, but it's always ended up nobody's ever known except me.
So your magazine is, what, 4 years old now?
It's into the 4th year.
Okay, so if you were starting over today, if somebody came to you and say, Paul, I'm thinking about doing a magazine, it doesn't have to be a magic magazine. What advice would you give them that is the most critical 3 or 4 steps that you absolutely have to have conquered before you venture into your magazine?
I think the first thing is to make sure you have a professional look and feel about it. Otherwise, it's just a newsletter.
Right.
You want people to take it seriously, right? The other thing is to have really good contributors and great articles because you want people to read it. And the other thing is you need to have some sort of presence. I think that's the really big thing, is to have a presence, online presence. So you need to look at ways like social media, websites. There's many different ways you can get an online presence as possible. What else? You need to. Depends what your goal is with it. If it's to try and make money from it, then you need to look at how you're going to do that. Do you charge per issue? Do you run it like I do, which is free, and then make your money on back issues, or advertising? So you have to look at your goal and look at why you're doing it. What's the reason for doing it? If it's to make money and you have no other job, I'd get another job. But eventually, it'll work if it's a good product.
If you set it up right.
If it's set up right. So you have to have all these things in place, and also distribution. How the biggest thing is how are you going to tell people about it? That's the biggest thing, is how is everyone going to know about it? It's no good just going onto Facebook and saying I'm now doing a magazine, because half a dozen people might read it.
Sure.
And you've got to look at how are you going to distribute it?
Yeah.
How are you going to get it out there? You want to have a little bit of money to invest in, which I still do, into certain advertising yourself. Advertising a magazine.
Like Google AdWords and
Google
Facebook
AdWords. Yeah, I don't bother with Google AdWords. I suppose I should. But certainly Facebook and other ways too. So those would be the 5 key points I think I would suggest to somebody. And also, then the last one would be the platform that you want to use. As I said, we have Vanish now has 5 or 6 platforms that people can read it from. They all cost money to do. So you want to, are you prepared to put in the time and the money and investment? And the time is a big thing too. You got to have the time to do it, because it's a huge
commitment.
It's a huge commitment, and you don't want to start it and go, oh, you know what, it's too much time, because then you get sort of a bad name once it takes off.
Yes.
I guess the dream is if one of these other magic magazines phoned up and said, look, here's the amount of money we're going to offer you for it. Okay.
Yeah. Sell out. But Mick,
Is that me or you?
that's got to be you.